What was the best year for metal? I've been pondering this question for a while. 84, 87, there's so many different answers that just come to mind right off the top of the head. But maybe if I rephrase the question a little bit differently, it'll help us narrow things down. Which year in the history of metal contains the best and most significant releases? I want to know your thoughts on this. I'm curious. We have a pretty diverse range of ages here. We have some Zooms, some Crylennials like myself, some Gen Exorcists, and some boom bags here as well. So I am curious to see what people think. When you leave your pick for best year, just leave whatever generation you belong to in the comments as well. It'll be interesting to go through and look and see what people of different generation groups think is the best year. I think that'll be very interesting. But yeah, so leave that in the comments below. And I'm pretty sure that I've had this exact conversation with my bandmates over the years, but I can't remember what they have to say about it, so I'll just give you my answers. But quickly, most of you watching are not subscribed. Oh, come. What are you guys doing? Come join the party. We're having daily metal content. We're having a good time. We're having a party. Come by, join the fun. Hop on in, buddy. Come on, let's go. So the first answer I have to give you is 1970. I think this is pretty self-evident. The birth of metal should contain some of the most significant releases, and it does, right? It just makes sense. With Black Sabbath's self-titled coming out, never mind that the same year we also got Paranoid by Black Sabbath. We also got UFO 1 and Led Zeppelin 3, Climbing by Mountain, Uriah Heep, all very fundamental releases for metal in the upcoming decades. It is very hard to argue that 1970 isn't the fundamental year for metal. But I don't really think that anyone would say that 1917 is the NHL's best year, if you know what I mean. So 1970 is a very important year, but probably not the best. Although I can and will listen to arguments for it. Next up on my list, we skip an entire decade and we get to 1980. Here, not only does 1980 contain a whole bunch of great releases, but just the pure number of metal releases this year compared to the last is impressive. Just listen to a few of these releases here. Angel Witches self-titled, Iron Maiden self-titled, Heaven and Hell by Black Sabbath. Here we get Dio fully moving into metal from his more rock stuff in Rainbow. Blizzard of Oz, Ace of Spades, Wheels of Steel, British Steel, Lightning to the Nations, On Through the Night. And Back in Black. We also got the first Manila Road LP. 1980 was just a great and foundational year for metal for the upcoming decades. Another one similar to 1970 in the fact that it's birthing a lot of these genres here. You sort of get the birth of thrash metal a little bit. You get the birth of the new wave of British heavy metal coming in. That would influence pretty much everything else to come. 1980, I think you can easily say that 1980 was one of the best years for metal, but the best? I'm not too sure. My next possible pick would be 1984. Here in 1984, we really seem to be getting to the beginnings of extreme metal genres forming, convalescing in the primordial metal swamp, if you will. But not only the extreme metal genres, but power metal and other more melodic genres really started coming together here as well. 1984 could be seen as the year where everything started to diverge. Let's just take a look at some of the releases we have. The first Bathory album, which is probably one of the most important releases in all of metal history, let's be honest. The first Celtic Frost release. The Metal Church self-titled. Don't Break the Oath by Merciful Fate. Jörg Panzer and Hellstar both released their debuts. Manowar had 2 releases this year. Yngwie Malmsteen's Rising Force. The Last in Line by Dio, Tooth and Nail by Dokken, Bon Jovi's self-titled, Love at First Sting, Power Slave, Defenders of the Faith, Ride the Lightning, 1984, Wasp self-titled, and man, there's just so many here I could go on, but I'll just cut it there. And I'm sure I'm missing lots of important ones, but I mean, 1984, I think you could easily make the argument that 1984 was one of the best years for metal, and I would for sure listen to it. I mean, in that list of albums I gave you guys just a little while ago, just think of how many incredibly iconic and influential albums there were there. It's just a very influential year for metal, and honestly, right now, 1984, I'm probably going to give it right up there. You know, right at the top for sure. But if all these years were sort of forming the fundamentals of metal, then 1986 is like the first year of pure refinement. Here we see genre lines more established, more sounds being used, more extreme, more melodic, better production, etc. Especially for thrash metal. You know, I'm sure I don't need to remind anyone who watches this channel of the big 3 albums that came out this year. The three-peat masterpiece, Rain and Blood, Master Puppets, and Peace Sells. Just a side note here. If a three-peat is repeating 3 times or winning 3 times in a row, but a three-peat is repeating 3 times, so wouldn't that be winning 4 times? Whatever, it doesn't matter. You know, I don't really need to say anything about these albums except that their cultural and musical influence has been absolutely massive and continues to this day. You know, especially with Master of Puppets, Rain and Blood was just so fundamental to so much death metal, hardcore. You know, that album is just crazy. Peace Sells, another just fantastic thrash record. You know, these 3 albums here, you could pretty much just listen to these and, you know, end the genre right there, I guess, if you really wanted to. Like, that would be enough, kind of, if you know what I mean. But that's not all 1986 had to offer here. We also had some other big-time bangers as well. Bon Jovi, Slippery When Wet, Europe, The Final Countdown, Candlemass, Epicus, Domicus, Metallicus. I hope I said that right. Cinderella, Night Songs, Fate's Warning, Awaken the Guardian, King Diamond, Fatal Portrait, Yngwie Malmsteen's Trilogy, Judas Priest Turbo, Sodom, Obsessed with Cruelty, Stripers, To Hell with the Devil. Sepultura, Morbid Visions, Somewhere in Time, and man, just many, many more. Just a fantastic year all around for metal. You know, new genres getting more established, more sounds being used, these incredibly iconic albums being released that are very high production quality and like the pinnacle of the genres. 1986 would be an easy contender for best year of all time for metal, in my opinion. But you know, that's not even counting the hardcore albums that came out too, that are incredibly influential for metal coming forward. You know, we have Bad Brains, Cro-Mags, Misfits, and Agnostic Front, just to name a few. And these will become important later on. But yeah, 1986, probably the first year what I would personally argue that is the best. What do you think so far? If you think this video is good, you know, hit that like button. Let's keep it moving here. My next pick would then be 1990. 1990 sees the extreme metal genres we saw being established earlier in the decade really start releasing classics of their own, especially in the death metal and power metal spheres. Let's see here. You know, 1990 had Rust in Peace, Cowboys from Hell, Painkiller. I mean, these 3 right here put in contention with 1986 for me. But we also have Seasons in the Abyss by Slayer, Left Hand Path by Entombed, Cause of Death by Obituary, Spiritual Healing by Death. Deicide, self-titled, By Inheritance by Artillery, Spectrum of Death by Morbid Saint, Eaten Back to Life by Cannibal Corpse, Fallen Angel of Doom by Blasphemy, Hammerheart by Bathory, Facelift by Alice in Chains, Lock Up the Wolves by Dio, Frizzle Fry by Primus, Iced Earth self-titled, and my personal favorite from 1990, Tales from the Twilight World by Blind Guardian. Among many, many others. You know, 1990 is just an absolutely cracked year for metal. I mean, just a small list I presented here, you see so many classic albums, especially for death metal. You know, man, like 1990, it's up there. I think it's up there for me. Like, it might just be the year. But let's keep moving here. What other years here? If 1990 was the year for death metal, then 1994 would be the year for black metal. I think 1994 is another contender, and not only because yours truly was born that year. We have Darkthrone, Burzum, Mayhem, and Emperor all releasing classic black metal records, but also Dimmu Borgir, Marduk, and Rotting Christ, to name just a few. Also, the Dark Funeral EP, and the first Cradle of Filth LP came out this year as well, The Principle of Evil Made Flesh. But in addition to black metal, 1994 was also a great year for Melodeath. We had The Lunar Strain by In Flames, Terminal Spirit Disease by At the Gates, Tales from the Thousand Lakes by Amorphous, and For Victory by Bolt Thrower. I know Bolt Thrower isn't really melodic death metal, but to me, I really think they're very, very close to being melodic death metal, if not take some influences from it, so whatever, it's my list. In addition, we have the Acid Bath and Melvins records, really cementing sludge metal as being a thing, Electric Wizard self-titled, Betty by Helmet, Jar of Flies by Alice in Chains. It's not a metal record, I know, but Alice in Chains is a metal band, and this record absolutely slaps, and I'll die on this hill. The Cleansing by Prong.
Stop your fingers, stop your neck. 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 Yeah!
Far Beyond Driven by Pantera, Burn My Eyes by Machine Head, The Symphony X self-titled, Euthanasia by Megadeth, and of course, I cannot forget the birth of nu metal with Korn's self-titled. Another absolutely fantastic year for metal. Maybe 1994 is better than 1990. We'll see. You know, it is my birth year after all. My next pick for great years of metal would be 2000, the dawn of a new millennium. You know, the first album that really comes to my mind is just the first Linkin Park record, Hybrid Theory. We also have a lot of other nu metal classics with Mudvayne's LD50, Chocolate Starfish and the Hot Dog Flavored Water from Limp Bizkit, Infest by Papa Roach, The Sickness by Disturbed, and White Pony by Deftones. Another classic. In addition, we had Midian by Cradle of Filth, which is my favorite from them, Follow the Reaper by Children of Bodom, Damned in Black by Immortal, and Dead Heart in a Dead World by Nevermore. Oh man, we just have a lot of bangers here. I'm just keep looking. I'll list off just a few more. Brave New World by Iron Maiden, Symphony X's 5, Dawn of Victory by Rhapsody, Infinite by Stratovarius, Clayman by In Flames, Universal Migrator, the double album by Arion, I don't know, whatever. Relationship of Command by At the Drive-In, and Jupiter by Cave-In. But yeah, anyways, 2000 was another great year, right up there with 1990, 86, 94, easily. But I feel like from here onwards, depending on your taste in music, you can probably argue almost every year as one of the greatest. You know, metal in the 2000s really exploded in variety and diversity. There's just so much good metal out there in pretty much any genre you like. Metalcore, black metal, war metal, doom metal, death metal, brutal death metal, slam, deathcore. You know, the list just goes on and on. You can really find whatever you like. So it really makes it hard to narrow down a year, especially when the great filter of time really hasn't done its work yet and filtered out some of the chaff from the rest of the greatness, if you know what I mean. But, you know, with that being said, let me just give you one of my favorite years from the last 2 decades or so. And that year will be 2013. This is the year I graduated high school, and I was absolutely in love with Northlane Singularity, which I made a video on. Go check it out. Augment by Era, One of Us is the Killer by the Dillinger Escape Plan, Altered State by Tesseract, Sempiternal by Bring Me the Horizon, Everblack by the Black Dahlia Murder, Tomorrow We Die Alive by Born of Osiris, Mouth of Swords by the Safety Fire, Surgical Steel by Carcass, Valkyra by Tyr, however you pronounce it, Tyr, Common Courtesy by A Day to Remember, Protest the Hero's Volition, Wolves Within by After the Burial, and Sunbather by Death Heaven, amongst a host of other releases. But 2013, for me personally, you know, right up there with some of the good years. But I could definitely see how someone who maybe wasn't, you know, had their ear to the ground for the gent and metalcore movement, you know, wouldn't really get this year, I guess, if that makes any sense to you. As compared to some of the older as compared to some of the older years where, you know, sort of there's this just general consensus within the metal community that these are great albums, if that makes any sense to you. But yeah, I mean, what do you think? I know this is a longer video, but I hope it was entertaining enough for you guys. What do you think? I know I left out one of your favorite albums or one of your favorite years, so tell me about that in the comments below. What year do you think is the best? In my final opinion, I think I'll give the title to 1990. I'm just fascinated with the early 90s, and man, all this great music coming out at this time, just so good. You know, Painkiller, Rust in Peace, I think I can just leave it there, right? You know? But honestly, all the years are pretty close, and that's not to say that any of the albums that aren't from 1990 aren't as good as any of the albums from 1990. If that makes any sense, I just think, you know, as a fun thought experiment, you can just rank the years, I suppose. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. Cheers.